Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Startup Grind. Startup Grind is a platform where it allows entrepreneurs and to have a discussion, a healthy discussion about what does it mean to start or grow a business. And we're lucky today to have a discussion on cybersecurity. This month, we're focusing on cybersecurity. And one of the things we would like to have is obviously make sure that our panelists here introduce themselves. I'm your host, Faris Alami, and part of International Strategic Management. We do entrepreneurship and small business development, mainly in underserved, underrepresented minority groups, supporting the organizations that deploys programs in these communities. And it's really my pleasure and privilege to be here with this panel. So we're going to talk about cybersecurity. So with that, we would like to discuss what is cybersecurity, how is it working, what are some of the challenges companies or people are facing today, and of course, diversity in cybersecurity. Recognizing that we have four guys talking about cybersecurity, and I know there are lots of female and or other that could potentially be part of the panel, but this is what we ended up with today. So we'll just address that as well as in a general sense, and then maybe we'll ask some few questions at the end about what can be done in education and workforce to ensure that there's a next generation of cybersecurity equipment, equipping people with the right resources or organizations. So with that, we'll start. Maybe Terence, you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll go from Terence to Wayne, and then from Wayne to Emmett.
So thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Terence Campbell. I am a published information security and instructional systems professional of about 35 years. I wear a couple of different hats. Most directly, I am a EDD student in educational leadership at Tennessee State University, focusing on cybersecurity and learning analytics. As a graduate teaching assistant, I am assisting the HBCU C2 collective, which is 46 of the 103 HBCUs have come together with the mantra that we don't compete with each other, we complete each other. And so we are actually building the technical capacity of students to use Apple products to actually build the capacity of their institutions as well as the community through the lens of cyber security. Aside from that, we've been running a faith-based HIV prevention agency for about 26 years. We've done a ton of different things. We've got a collection of about 60 peer-reviewed articles and scholarly artifacts. And that's it. Aside from, I forgot that I'm a cybersecurity certified teacher, K-12 teacher. So I will pass it on to Wayne.
My name is Wayne Boggs. I'm the cybersecurity instructor for the Hillsdale Area Career Center. I've been teaching in Michigan for 24 years, 9 of which have been in cybersecurity in the CTE world. I currently have 36 students in my program, 7 girls in my program as well. So that's very nice to see. I also work as an educational consultant for MICE, the Michigan Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, where the last year and a half with COVID and some other things going on, we've been working as a second chance program for Cisco and MICE with the Ambassadors for Change program. And we are offering cybersecurity courses to some inner city students and young adults that have gotten in trouble and given them the option we've teamed up with a few judges and been able to kind of help their situation out and remove some of the issues they had with their record and give the students the opportunity to have some educational background with cybersecurity. We're on phase 3 of our first year of our pilot program. And I'm currently helping 3 students right now that have all been in trouble before. And they're working on getting their cybersecurity analyst certification through CompTIA. So we're moving right along and it's working out great. All the funding that we received through this has come from Cisco and being able to do that. And I currently instruct that at like 10 o'clock at night. So that's how we roll. So that's me. I'll pass it on to Emmett.
Thank you, Wayne. Emmett McHenry. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm the kind of entrepreneur that looks for problems and tries to find problems that are impacting large groups of folk where we can create solutions to address those. Historically, I am the founder of Network Solutions and founded 3 or 4 other companies around the world, all focused on problems of a given nature, and always communications and information security has been a part of that. At Network Solutions, we did some of the first security communications products. Our interoperability product called OpenLink was the first of its kind for TCP/IP. We did SecureNet for the Intel community, et cetera. So been involved in secure communications for a long time, that now we focus on calling it cybersecurity. So same thing, different label, different time.
Thank you,
Wayne, particularly impressed with, Wayne said something got my attention, was what he's doing with folks who have had difficulties in the system and some rehabilitation and some skills training. We are working on one of our many projects at the moment is in the data center space. And one of the things we want to do with that is we want to train folk. Let's give an example. In Baltimore City, there are small projects going with cybersecurity training for very young people. I mean, coming out of junior high school into high school. One of the challenges is that people don't recognize that genius is proportionate to population, plus or minus nutrition. Nutrition doesn't impact on it.
Okay.
And our contention is, the problem is that smart is not cool anymore. So we want to be a part of making smart really cool. And we think a part of that process is that we need to go to the smart kids and bring them to the learning environment versus having parents be responsible for that, because we don't want there to be any barriers to learning. So we can talk more about that as the day goes on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, part of the program we were started out with 15 students selected by the judges. The kids that we're dealing with, they don't have parents telling them that.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of on their own. So we I personally spent probably more time on accountability than I did cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting you to show up to class on time and things like that was, teaching, the importance of being held accountable for what you're doing. And now the good thing is all the students that I'm working with now, they all have full-time jobs. I don't have to deal with a lot of the things that we dealt with, first phase. We kind of got them straightened out and kind of like realized that the big thing with cybersecurity, and a lot of people get scared by the word cybersecurity. And I can tell you firsthand, all the students that I've dealt with the Ambassadors for Change program, they completely did not think they were capable of doing what we're doing. And once we got them in and sat them down and showed them how to do some of the things, that quickly changed and evolved into, yeah, I can do this. So that's a big deal. And that's where we have the shortage in Michigan for cybersecurity people, is we get to the high school level and a lot of those kids think, I can't do that. So
they can play games competitively.
Right. I can, don't get me started on that one.
Yeah.
That's where I come in terms of
Right.
use animation and video game development as my hook for teaching wide varieties of opportunities in cyber. I mean, of course, there's coding, of course, there's the bits and bytes, but there's the technical writing, that goes into that. There's the graphics, when we look at stenography and all that kind of stuff, folks are starting to put viruses in in graphics and all of that kind of stuff. And then just storyboarding, that they don't think about, kind of deal, and just really showing them, step by step, hey, this is, how you can do it, to even include badging. So when they say, oh, I can't do it, it's like, okay, well, you got these badges right here, right? This is your name right here, right? And that says 90 out of 100. Oh, we didn't know I know you didn't, but let's continue to do this, because from video gaming, they do a lot of the stuff already for A plus, Net plus, and Security plus. It's just not framed that way, as well as,
Indeed.
you know what? Here's 2 books that you can get. Both of them cost $60. That's one video game. And you already know all of this stuff. So let's continue to have fun, but let's get ready for these certifications so we can make some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. So we're already gaming. We haven't even started yet. so thank you so much. Emmett, did you want to say something else before I?
No. We're of like minds. The challenge in cybersecurity today, well, there's several levels of challenges, but on the operating side is to find the talent where the talent is. And I think there are 2 what would appear to be extreme categories. So the young people coming up, get them interested before they become interested in things that could be destructive in their lives, because the talent is there. Talent will find something to do. Yep. It's going to be positive or negative, it will find something to do. And the other side that seems very foreign, we're going through a period when lots of folks are coming out of the military. There too is a huge audience of opportunity that we can address with training, that have some of the maturity issues that we talk about, that have the order in their lives. Now we find ways to train them and get them excited about another mission, that mission being to protect individuals, protect organizations, protect our nation. Because the vulnerability of a company can become a vulnerability for the nation. It can spread, the viruses spread very rapidly.
Yeah. Thank you, Amit. So you're starting us already off with challenges that we are facing and the opportunities to solve those challenges. Love that. I want to take us just a step back, because when I hear cybersecurity, at least from my knowledge, it seems like such a broad term, and it can cover all kinds of stuff, from protecting your personal things to protecting your business. So I'm going to just ask maybe the dumb question here. I feel it's really important that we set the stage. What is cybersecurity? And I'll let any of you take it any way you want to. But when I hear the word cybersecurity, what does it really mean? What is cybersecurity?
Well, I like to tell in my classroom, we start out with basics. We don't have to use the word cybersecurity, more like the word cyber safety. So educating young kids, especially like the middle school, where they start to learn all those little trinkets about video gaming and peer-to-peer online stuff, educating them on what is taking place, what could take place, how they could do wrong, how they can be, keep themselves safe while they're online. And then we also take time out to educate the parents, because we all know the kids know more than the parents do about this topic. Okay, so being able to educate the parents on exactly what they're doing. One of the biggest things I stress to a lot of my parents is don't get too upset when they're playing video games all the time. I said, yes, limit them and how much they do it, but they are learning so much about cybersecurity and IT in general by playing some of these types of games that, most of those kids are going to turn into IT professionals. It's not like they're going to, turn into some game player sitting in their basement. A lot of the kids in my classroom right now, they know how to install and uninstall games, even through my firewalls. So they have to take that knowledge that they have and yes, use it for good, but we also have to kind of play it safe and understand, the possibilities and, the ramifications of what could possibly happen if you're not paying attention. So cyber safety is where we start in my program, and we later turn it into cybersecurity.
Thank you for that, Wayne. Anyone else would like to add? So think about cybersecurity as far as cyber safety. What should you do? What shouldn't you do on the net, right? That's what we're talking about here, or gaming or whatever else. Terence, I see you want to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll defer to Emmett. Given that, I hope everybody that watches this understands the gravity of him being a part of this panel. Network Solutions is a top tier provider of domain services. Okay. And for him to be the founder, what a lot of folks, if you are not a historian, would not know. So I can say, but I definitely want to give him the opportunity to
No,
enlighten us
man,
all.
go right ahead. You're doing well. Continue.
Okay, so for me, I like cyber safety. The next piece I go is data, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of whether you're a layperson, whether you're a entrepreneur, or whether you're a multinational organization like Ford, GM, Chrysler, right? And I'm saying that because Detroit is the home of the big three. Data is the most important asset that we have, okay? And especially now that we're in a digitally connected, knowledge-driven society. Cybersecurity, for me, is about protecting your data from unintentional or intentional manipulation, right? And so we talk about the cybersecurity triad, right? So that's confidentiality, integrity, and availability, okay? Either of those has colossal consequences, right, with respect to if they modify that data. And so even like right now, as we go into the holiday season, right, we need to be very concerned about our data and how we're interacting with these web-based platforms in general, specifically e-commerce platforms. If you are shopping online, I would suggest that you get a reloadable credit card rather than using your debit card, okay? Because they got credit card scammers everywhere. Folks are spoofing websites, all that kind of stuff, right? So if that credit card gets compromised, they're not depleting your whole account. I'm
Thanks,
also
Terence.
saying don't use cash apps, okay? Because cash apps have been proven not to be as secure as they can be.
Love it. So, Terence,
Coming back to your
Go ahead, Emmett. Go ahead.
question, Ferris. Possibly people listening are not in the cyberspace, so let's talk a little. We're really talking about electronic or digital communications in any platform. And the more important the messages going across that platform, the higher the risk. We call it cybersecurity because of this all-inclusiveness of it. And our challenge is to trying to keep it simple, recognizing there's a huge complexity in the infrastructure. I mean, the telecom companies historically are at the center of the communications, can see, can touch. And there are people who want to ride on what they can do, exploit what they can do. At the same time, they want to exploit what we users, senders, receivers of comms across this wide network, this global network. And therefore, we talk about this as the global comms security. That's what we're fighting to make happen. Recognizing that the lowest point of any network, by that I mean, let's talk about supply chain just for a moment. You are General Motors and you are buying parts from Mary in Annapolis, Maryland, or someplace, and you are communicating across the same network. Your electronics are coming together. When we saw the interoperability problem, we opened a door for potential security risk, right? And so now, if Mary is attacked, and the attack might be a virus that gets there and just sits, does nothing for weeks, for months. And as her business grows in the chain with General Motors, it's activated. And the links between her and General Motors are already established. So she's got a bridge. That virus has a bridge now, unless General Motors has put in place appropriate measures of defense. So it's that sort of thing that gentlemen, correct me if you think I'm off base in my.
No, this is excellent because that's
Yeah.
exactly the scenario that happened with Target,
Mhm.
and other organizations they had with these advanced persistent threats is what Emmett is. They just sit there. They're just like a virus. They say that we have all these different conditions in our body, right? That if folks, if they didn't have this, the HPV vaccine, that there's conditions in their body, if just the right trigger, you could get shingles. So similar scenario. I love that.
Yeah. I hope that, Faris, that addresses your question.
Well, I mean, I think we have three components for my question now. So one was safety, the other one was data, the third one you talked about messaging or information sharing. So that's really what I was trying to illustrate here, which clearly is very complex. And Emmett, you hit on it, right? Such a broader umbrella is hard to really pinpoint. But I think what you guys gave with these three nuggets, messaging, safety and data, it's a good way for at least to have this conversation today about those things and about what can be done from it, what can we learn from it. And then of course my focus throughout the whole conversation is about the business and the talent, right? Because we're talking about startup grind here. I'm lucky enough to know that these things are so complex. We use in my space entrepreneurship ecosystem development. You might as well speak any other foreign language rather than English to even say those words, because no one even know what that really means, right? So till you start breaking those barriers and say, all right, we're talking about schools, we're talking about funders, we're talking about training. It's the same thing for the cybersecurity. I'm trying to say, what are all those components? And you gave me three, right, for now. And I think this is good enough for us to run with. I'm sure if I spend 2 more hours with each one of you, I could unfold 6 or 8 more of that ecosystem. And through my research, it was clear there's like 10 to 15 components within the cybersecurity. Some go all the way to 50 that can potentially be part of what is this all about. But I love where you guys took it. So now we could narrow it down to these pieces and dig a little bit deeper. So my second question was going to be, which is what some of the challenges, but since you already addressed that, Emmett, I'd love to hear just a little bit back to what Wayne said about the diversity in the cybersecurity from a service provider, from talent perspective. What is it looking like? When I hear 28 participants, 7 women, I get excited because that's like 30%. It's not 50%, I understand, but at least 30%. That's pretty exciting. I wonder what does it look like on a broader sense? At least, I mean, yes, I could pull out the report and tell you what is, McKinsey or some of these other organizations are saying, but I'd like to hear from your perspective, from your experience, what does it look like on the ground working with these organizations? So Amit, maybe you could talk about your entrepreneurship journey, how many other female or other people are in this space. Maybe Wayne talks about the education piece, and maybe Terence, you could talk, since you and I have worked on the global trade mission through our work on connecting dots, the nonprofit that teaches high schools entrepreneurship and technology STEM. One of the one we did together, Terence, was cybersecurity. Maybe you could talk about the future of the workforce and some of the companies that you also work with your interaction, and as well as you serve in some other communities as well, talking about cybersecurity. I'd love to hear some of your perspectives. I'll leave it open. Maybe we could start with Emmett this time and work to Terence.
When you were speaking about this, what occurred to me was my own family. I have a sister, my family, there are 9 children. Of the 9 children, I'd say 5 of us are quants in various ways. That is quantitatively oriented thinking, the way we think. One sister is a PhD in engineering, another's a master's of this or that. My grandchildren, I have 6. I have 3 quants in the 6. One is an engineer, just graduated, started to work with McKinsey. One's in high school, another grandson who's in biosciences, which is again quant. I'm not saying these things are easy, by the way. I smile at the challenges they're going on, but you should look at this stuff. So I think we're trending in the right direction. That is, more and more, the diversity of the sexual population, in whatever ways you label the sexual population, is greater today than it was when I was a kid, right? By the time you get to university, you begin to see things happening. But I'm really interested in what happens before the university, because that determines who goes to the university. So more select. In our own companies, we've always, and I'm now going back to 1979, which most of the people listening weren't born probably. We've always had a very diverse population with women engineers, software engineers particularly, having lead positions. I was just we just reviewed a product, some technology, and I sat in on it, and we had our review team. I was blown away, by the way. Our team was fantastic. But the lead person, when it really got to some of the deep analytics, happened to have been a woman who was leading that piece. So we don't, we're looking for people who can fill these important slots, and we're finding more diverse. Is there enough, the classic answer, of course, is not enough in at the beginning of the pot, they don't in at the end. But it's a different mapping. And I think we need to get that mapping communicated and get some of those people on video things like we're doing here to be able to communicate at the middle school level. So that, because I think that's where it really begins to happen, at the middle school level, when people begin to trend, I like math, I don't like math, I like gaming, I don't like gaming. Because the new tools we have, what we can do with gaming to map the brain in terms of neuron mapping, right, processes, is so rich. Now we just need to find the right kinds of games, Wayne, that's going to optimize that, that's going to lead to the next step.
Right.
Answering maybe as direct as you'd like. A, the brains are not identical, but they overlap with technology and quantitative stuff equally in large measure, sometimes deeper, because the level, I taught at university. I taught at Northwestern 1,000 years ago. And in those days, what I found, young women coming into college had a greater attention to detail, right? You teach you, what do you see? Attention to detail, commitment to the work, not distracted so readily by other things, mostly being biochemical, but not as distracted, right? So the performance, on those early years, the key is doing things to keep them involved in the process, in the learning process, and that is bridging over into some of the and you see more of this now. The world has changed so dramatically because women play so many of the games, period, in life today. And so that enrichment is going to lead into our cyber protection arena with more diversity. That's a long way to say that the diversity patterns are growing.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, diversity, women, of course, is one aspect, because of course, colors could be another, all kinds of ethnicity, income level, backgrounds, education level. There are all kinds of really diversity we could look at.
Family support.
Family support, all those things, right? And when you say, I was shocked when you said 6 grandkids, because I thought you're going to say you're like 25, 30-year-old guy. So you must, the cybersecurity must have treated you, you might have either messed yourself up here, or I'm not sure. That's pretty good genes, maybe.
You're seeing a hologram. This is a hologram.
Okay, that's what
right. I'll tell you, to kick off from what he was saying, as far as in my world, in the education world, the perception and availability and opportunity is usually the issues. For girls to be in my program, to reach the advanced levels and do some of the things that we do in 2 years, it usually they get in, and it becomes a competition. I think they get the idea of that they're not supposed to be there, they're not supposed to like this kind of stuff, or they can't compete with the male population, which is exactly what you said as far as the attention to detail, the work ethic and all that is way better with my girls than it is my guys. So definitely, once you have reached the idea of being in a program like cybersecurity or creating yourself as a professional in the IT world, it's turns into a competitive deal, for sure. For lack of a better term, most of the girls in my room have a chip on their shoulder, like, yeah, I can do this better than you, and that's kind of how they treat the guys, kind of like, yeah, we can do this. This is not just for you. Now, as far as the opportunity is concerned, like, what I see in Michigan, I can only speak for Michigan. I'm guessing all of middle schools like this. Our adult population, between parents and teachers at that level, are not even directing IT towards the girls. Like, it's kind of like a old school mentality, like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to like that, or you don't need to do that type of issue, because a lot of the girls that come to me flat out will tell me, we weren't even given the opportunity to do XYZ at the middle school level, and most of them can't tell you why, but I can read the writing on the wall, and I've talked to hundreds of middle school instructors over the years, that you get the sense of feeling the same way. So in that aspect, that's for the male female population issues, that could help tremendously. The more we introduce, I know the group that I'm with MICE, we introduce cybersecurity from K all the way up to 12. And we did a number of things with middle schoolers last year that really, you turn on light bulbs in brains of how cybersecurity works and how you can be involved in this IT world. And most of the girls over the last couple of years have been like, we didn't even know this existed. We want to do this. We're all in. How can we get involved? So it's working on a smaller scale, but we need to definitely vamp that up. One of the other things that we do with MICE too is we've created all these academies and stuff. We run a learning management system that has all the cybersecurity courses. It prepares you for 13 different CompTIA certifications, which is now in like 70 different schools in Michigan. One of our biggest issues, and that we're trying to wrap our head around the last few years, is to get Detroit involved. Detroit Public Schools has 22 different school districts, and currently 3 or 4 have cybersecurity classes at all. The rest of them do not have them at all. So opportunity to me, is a big issue. Like, as far as the inner city is concerned, these kids don't even have the opportunity to take some of these courses.
All right, thank you so much. That's very insightful. I'm not sure, Terence, if you want to say anything or not.
I just had a couple quick things that I wanted to say to kind of touch on what both Emmett and Wayne said. So 2 things. So in terms of education, one of the things we need to really wrap our minds around in terms of the industry, and we need education to help with this, or the academy, is that there's this general cybersecurity education, right, that everybody needs, because cybersecurity is everybody's business. And then where Wayne and I sit a lot is career readiness focused cybersecurity education, CTE, the certifications and all that kind of stuff, and not understanding that these certification exams, they're just technical, standardized test, right? And so we already know that there are certain populations, okay, that have problems with standardized exams. CTE usually starts 9th grade. So why aren't we pushing it down to at least the education piece to middle school, early middle school? Some middle schools start at the 5th grade, some middle schools start at the 6th grade. If nothing more, foundational certifications, the IC3, everybody has to be proficient in some kind of office productivity suite. So why aren't we doing mouse, exams, which is the office suite, in the middle school? Okay. I love what I'm hearing, competition, right? Let's talk esports. What some folks don't know, the number 1 esports athlete made $14.5 million last year playing video games. To go to what Emmett was saying, It's called serious games, okay? Serious games are games focused on a specific aspect. I help organizations develop cybersecurity focused video games. So rather than just Mario going through and getting coins and all that kind of stuff, he's doing cybersecurity tasks that not only help prepare folks for certifications, but are things based on real world examples. The new term for serious games in cyber is playable case studies, and that's where my research is going to be focusing on for my PhD. My EDD, workforce readiness. We have to get out of the thought that you can only prepare for cybersecurity jobs by working in IT companies and doing IT stuff. No, cybersecurity is a culture, okay, to the tune that every division within a business needs a cybersecurity team lead that regularly meets with IT to figure out exactly how does my job as a janitor, how does my job A, compromise our current posture, but B, what can I do to help maintain or harden the posture, i.e., like we've got different kind of bins for the material. There should be stuff that should be shredded, identified. This needs to be shredded. This needs to be pulverized.
Love it. Yeah, I love that, Terence. So the diversity of the cybersecurity spectrum could also be huge. I mentioned this because obviously my goal is from this conversation also is to spark interest in individuals wanting to start and grow businesses in the cybersecurity. And having read although we do have some challenges, so some of the reports I took notes on was Aspen that said, 9% of cybersecurity employment are unfortunately only Black individuals and less than 4% are Hispanic. So it gives me perspective that there's a long way to go. And with what you're saying, Terence, also could be different levels of cybersecurity. It doesn't have to be coding. It doesn't have to be programming. It could be like, is this document need to be shredded or not? It is part of cybersecurity, right? Those cameras wired correctly or not in the house or the office, that is part of cybersecurity. But I do know one other thing. According to TechCrunch, last year, 2021, or this year, the cybersecurity VC space, venture capital funding. So this is people who usually don't get funded or although people like to go for that kind of money, also people, it's the hardest money to get, jumped to $11.5 billion. And to give you perspective, the year before 2020 or 2019, 4.5 billion. So almost doubled in the billions in 1 year. It seems like there are lots of opportunities and these are investments in startups, right? It seems like lots of opportunities, not only to be employed by, cybersecurity company, but also to invent cybersecurity. And if you could teach them some of these methodologies and habits that you're discussing here, could potentially open up a whole new door to what this new startups world could look like for cybersecurity. Guys, it's hard to believe, we've been talking for a while and it's time for us to wrap up. Clearly, we could spend a day or two just going through your knowledge and your insights on this, and appreciate you making the time for our audiences in the StartupGrind international community and specifically Detroit community. I'd like to maybe end up, with closing remarks, and maybe you could tell us from a personal level or a business level, from a personal level or business level, what could be, some of the things that you suggest for people to think about when they're thinking about cybersecurity? And we have to just try to keep it within a minute or two for each one of you, so we could end up on time, if you guys don't mind.
So real quick, you said invent. I would say innovate. A lot more room for innovation than for creativity, but creativity is always part of innovation. Recently, I just came back from making a pitch to a group of investors around our cybersecurity, and the room was full. When I talked about what we do, the innovations that we're bringing to the marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Money follows problems. If you can solve a problem, money will come. Simply put, money follows problem. Problem solvers get money to invest in solving problems. Cybersecurity represents a range of problems today. And if you can put the right solutions together, provide the right kind of innovation, there's money to be invested.
Thank you, Emmett.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, understanding that cybersecurity is in almost every aspect of our lives. I could spend a whole semester teaching kids how to use their phone. I can spend a semester talking about cryptocurrency. I have more and more students involved in that than I ever have. And just getting involved and understanding the things that can go on in their lives. I think it's one of the most important topics we have. One of the things I hear from middle schools and high schools that don't provide, like the CTU aspect of it, is that they don't have the time to teach cybersecurity. And one of the things I would stand on a soapbox and tell them, you better make time, because this is the most important thing going on in our lives. It's not math. It's not history. Okay. It's not English. Being safe in the cyber world is huge.
Thank you, Wayne.
That's all.
So, COVID, right? So because of the COVID era, we have now telework, or aspects of telework and cybersecurity have been permanently cemented in every field of human endeavor. So much so that I'm working with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, as well as the National Cyber Watch Center, to really figure out what does innovation, what does entrepreneurship look like in this space using research, right? So all of the stuff that we've talked about, the quintessential STEM career is what we're talking about right now, IT and cyber. It's in everything. There are so many opportunities to do cybersecurity with respect to products and services, from helping HR redesign what work roles look like using something like the cybersecurity workforce framework, which NIST has, all the way to technical stuff. Where the real nugget though is, because they're saying human factors are the culprit for 60-70% of the breaches that we're seeing now, going back to culture. Any kind of soft services that help businesses truly understand that cybersecurity is everybody's business, and helps organizations develop toolkits, a Batman utility belt for them, understanding that cybersecurity is not a destination, it's a process. We're Deming. Remember Deming? We talked about Deming and all that. With cybersecurity, is that same thing. It's a process. Sigma is all in that. Black belts need to be all in that, but it needs to be evidence-based, okay? But because the immaturity of the field, practice needs to inform research, as opposed to other fields where research informs practice. Definitely a whole field. And I mean, even in terms of researchers, if you want to be a researcher in cybersecurity, we're not talking about that. We need those tenured faculty at these staunch research at U of M, Northwestern, Michigan State, figuring out what those tools look like for integrating education at that level, which is probably co-curriculars, because it doesn't require faculty to do a whole lot of stuff, a lot of changes. Thank you for this opportunity, gentlemen. I look forward to networking with you offline. Mr. Emmett, let me be one of the first to say thank you. I mean, I started my career at 83 with an Atari 800 XL and a paper route. And I programmed back then what will be a crude version of QuickBooks today. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan as well. So EDS and all of your work is very real for me.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, thank you all all for being here. Clearly, from education and also people weighing to your point, math and English and all those things is not this or that is really complement each other, because if you don't know math, you're not going to know cyber. If you don't know how to speak, you're not going to know cyber, right? So all of those things are part of the equation to understanding that nothing is taken away from anything. It's really just an add-on. And I know for the educators listening, you're like, one more thing to do. Well, the reality is just this how the new life is, one more thing to do. And to Terrence's point, we all live now. I only know people 2x2s, 2 inches by 2 inches, because there's squares on my screens. That's all I know. Occasionally I see real people that have multiple dimensions, but otherwise if you're more than 2x2, I'm always surprised, like, oh, you're taller than 2x2 and you move. And Emmett, with your insights about, where this could all go, right? Now, if I can control cars or have them, now that the cars are all automated and Internet of Things, now I can have them driving to each other or driving safely. Either way can be all utilized based on all this knowledge. I want to say thank you to all three of you. I appreciate all your insights. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you making the time, of course, and I appreciate your commitment to cybersecurity for all of us. Thanks a million.
All right, thank you.
Good job, gentlemen. Enjoy being with you.
Likewise. Enjoy the rest of the day.